it's not just the simplicity of the writing, it is the wisdom in the simplicity that is so captivating. And Bishwanath is one character, and through that character you hear stories of history, stories of different perceptions of history. But the real conversation is what Bishwanath is listening to. So there are two Bishwanaths, one who comments on what he is listening to and then in a way recollects history or what he has read in his history book or in his, and there's other Bishwanath who is just a kind of a sponge who is just narrating to you that X said this and Y said this. And to me that was the most interesting part of the book, on what X and Y said and what we can draw from those conversations, whether it was Punjab, whether it is Meghalaya, whether it is Tripura, whether it is Assam, whether it is West Bengal. There are different stories that Bishwanath says. And there is one character, and this is who's the most captivating character for me, which is the Radcliffe line. The Radcliffe line is actually a persona in this book. The way, and he's represented by those posts and pillars that represent the line. So the line itself becomes a storyteller. Where is the line drawn? Where does the line make the backyard Bangladesh and the frontier India? When does the line actually capture people within certain boundaries where they don't know whether they belong to Bangladesh or India for decades? And that specific happening reminded me of my travel to Palestine and Israel. You have different parts of Palestine. You have the Bethlehem side of Palestine where you have this huge wall that will vet you every time you go and come back. That's a physical boundary that every Palestinian is looking at as they wake up every morning. And so they are in a prison. Let's not even say anything. It's a prison. And I really don't know if I woke up every morning whether I would pick up a gun or not. I don't know. I can't say. And then you have a different kind of ghettoization of the Palestinians, which happens in what could be called the Jordan Valley or South Hebron, where these are the Bedouins. And they are in their land in which they have grazed their sheep for generations. And out of the blue, a settler will put a post one day. Next day there will be electricity. Third day there will be water. Fourth day they can't graze their sheep. So that also is a kind of a capture. The idea of nationality, idea of do they have a passport, everything goes out of the way. And I was reminded of that when I read Bishwanath's stories on the Bangladeshis who were caught in Kuch Bihar, or the Indians who were caught in the Bangladeshi side. And in this country we keep talking about syncretic culture. These are words we love to actually say. The fact is, most of us, I wonder whether we really know what it means. I really think it's just this euphemism that we love to pat ourselves on our back and say, we are a syncretic culture, we are a syncretic culture. No, we all live in our little bubble and very happy about it. And then we will shake hands when it looks nice. But there are these people, these are the people who live in the border, whether it's Bangladesh or whether it is Lahore and Amritsar. To them, there is no actually conversation about syncretic culture, simply because they just share. The other person went to the other person's field, the other person came to this person's field. It was Eid, they celebrated. If there's anything else, they celebrated. So they didn't, the whole point of differentiation, which is our starting point to say we are syncretic, actually, that whole discourse doesn't happen, and this is what I call wisdom at some level. This is wisdom. And it comes out so beautifully in the stories on the terrace when he's peeping, or for the stories when that three villagers want to cross over to their land in Bangladesh, but their shortcut is through India. So they wait for the BSF Jawans to go the other way, so that they can just quickly run to home. Otherwise they have to walk 8 kilometers. And the BSF Jawan also knows they're going to do that, and doesn't bother. That's how it is. That is so beautiful. And it's so human, it's so real, it is something that we don't do. I will not walk, honestly, I wonder whether I would be able to walk even if the person is my friend, to their home and feel that, say they belong to a different religion or even a different caste group. Will I feel that ease? I don't know. That's the honest truth. I don't know. It's intellectually very nice to say yes. A liberal has to say that. But will I feel that way? That's a totally different ballgame. And all this comes out so beautifully. And this whole idea of nationhood itself is questioned. The whole idea of a nation, the idea that a political boundary actually defines people. And that's questioned quite with great ease, no complication in it, because for them, many of them even don't like the partition. And today we discuss about the partition as being a political thing about Hindus, Muslims, Jinnah, Gandhi, and for these people all this is irrelevant actually. And their problem with the partition is very simple. They have friends, they have family, they have lands, they have celebrations, and all this has been destroyed. That's all. Now, how are we supposed to understand that kind of a discourse to a political event? Rather than create another political context to have this discourse. And this whole idea of what really joins the subcontinent to some extent. The idea of the Bengali being of so many different types. The idea of the tribal and the Bengali and the complications. And the idea of immigration being such an issue. It's a political issue. And two stories, it's very interesting in the book. A person who has actually seen partition says, all this is mumbo jumbo. There's no big Muslim immigration happening. This is political. And then you have the younger person saying, no, there are more Muslims here. I think that was actually a very revealing part for me, by the way. Because it also tells you about the intellectual context of the two people, not just the emotional. On what are the stories that they are hearing. Because these come not necessarily from empirical data or real knowledge. It comes from the feeling that you get. So that also sets a context for you of a person who has seen partition. And what was the story about the person across the border that person was having? Whereas most of us who have not seen partition, what is the conversation we are having on the border, about the border, or the people across the border? I think it's fascinating. There are many layers. There are many layers that come across quite beautifully. And I like the way history pops in and pops out. Occasionally comes in and drops a little story from history and goes back. So it's what I would call a simple book, and that's probably the most difficult thing to write. It's very hard to write a simple book because the temptation is to complicate something. I am guilty of that, so I know. The temptation is to try to create nuance in something, but the nuance is actually the simplicity. I want to have lunch today is actually a very nuanced statement, but I don't like to say that. I like to complicate about where I'm going to have lunch, with whom I'm going to have lunch, who will be sitting next to me. And then then it's not about much anymore, right? So that's something that Bishwanath has done marvelously. And I'd like to end by just one, again, being a person of music, I have to have some musical connection to all the lands and few lands that he doesn't mention. One of the songs that I love in Bengali is Dono Dhanyo Pushpotana. It's by Vijendra Lal Roy, and many people may not know that this was a kind of an anthem for the Mukti Bahini. During the war for liberation of Bangladesh, this song was a song of energy, power. Then you have a song by Hafiz Jalal. It's a poem. He's the one who wrote the Pakistani national anthem. And the song was called Kishan Kadam. It's a poem. It's a long poem. It's pretty long actually. Then you have the Sri Lankan national anthem, which is Sri Lanka Mata, written by Ananda Samrakur, which is completely inspired by Tagore. Some people say even Tagore wrote it. And of course, the Bangladeshi national anthem is a creation of Tagore. And you have Janaganamana. I bring these songs together for the obvious reason that these songs may represent political boundaries, including Janaganamana. But I think if you are willing to just go a little deeper to everyone, to Dono Dhanyo or Janaganamana or any of them, they actually talk about land. They actually talk about mountains. Janaganamana is beautiful. In fact, it starts with Manas. It actually talks about the mind. And it talks about the trees, the mind, the human beings, the land. And there's the word in Tamil which I love, which is pattu. It's a beautiful word, pattu. And pattu is not nationalistic. Pattu is a sensation. It's not about, I'm an Indian. No, it's about, for example, when we travel abroad and we land or anything in Chennai, there is a smell that we get. But that's pattu. Even if it is Buckingham Canal, it's pattu. There is a connection that happens with the land, with the sweat that you can smell, with that dust on the street, with all the screaming that you hear. And every one of these songs are about pattu, land and people and nature. And if only we can have that kind of pattu to all that we are and all the people around us are and all that is around us, I wonder whether we will be in the situation we are in today. Not just politically, but just as human beings. And I go back to what I began with, which is the assassination. And I think ultimately it's about having love for each other in some way, in a little way. And it's about finding a way to keep that as the dominant sensation as human beings. There are other sensations, but can that be the dominant sensation? And if that is the dominant sensation, then borders won't be a problem. And we will not only gaze, we will fall in love. And we'll keep falling in love. And I thank Bishwanath for having written this book and for having allowed us to think about these things, not just in a capacity of intellectualization, but in a capacity of actual reflection. Because we are all guilty of doing the othering. We are all guilty of it. And I think this book kind of erases the idea of othering. And I thank you very much for it.
Thank you, Mr. Krishna. That was a typically forceful presentation. We now have another forceful and fluent speaker, B. Sriram. A few words about him. He is an IT entrepreneur, but he is best known for his passions, which are Carnatic music,